Okay, so let's start off with the top five. Okay,
Okay.
so it went from Lefty Lucy, who started it, right? And
Way
then
back.
it went to Cody. He kind of picked up the reins and charged
hmm
with it. And then after, we're not even going to talk about what happened there, but so what happened from transitioning from Cody to you? Was there a discussion, or did you just kind of like,
No.
you're like, hey, there's a vacuum, I'm going to dive right in?
Well, yeah, that was kind of it. I mean, I knew Cody and like I get along with Cody, but I didn't know him really well, you know?
Huh?
We just had like duels and stuff in the past, and we had a very like professional content creator relationship with each other, but nothing like I didn't hang out with him and stuff like that. And then same with Lefty Lucy, we had more of a professional relationship as well. After Cody had stopped the top five, there was about a year period or more or so where there was just no top five series for ESO. There's kind of like a void. And Cody actually, he quit streaming and everything too, just with what happened with him. And after that, there was a void for like ESO PvP content creators as well. And I'd been at it for a really long time, and I'd always looked at it as like, okay, the next big guy is moving on. Is now's my chance. Now's my chance. But
Yeah.
it was never really about them moving on. It was about me just putting the work in and growing as a creator, I think. And when Cody left, I saw the opportunity to take up the top five. Now, to be perfectly honest, if my channel had reached 10, 15K and Cody was still around doing it, I would have started my own top five.
Yeah.
And a big
Okay.
reason why I have that philosophy is because like I don't own a style of content creation, right? Nobody does. And like this is something that way back in the day, like Deltia, like an OG ESO creator who's gone now
Yeah.
a long time ago. And I did this thing called a One Life video where I did like a single run with my Templar and I showed all the fights that I got until I died throughout like the course of a PvP like session. And it was like I tried to pick like a great fight to show it. And as that has kind of progressed over the years, it turned into like these really long 1vx videos. And that's just, I think, because I got better at playing. But Deltia came up to me and
the One
sorry.
Life series, did you upload that on YouTube?
Yeah, it's really old. It's like 3-4 years
No
old.
way, man. Because I like to think of myself as an OG fan. I know that we've been friends for a while, but I was watching your content before we ever met in game. And let me translate.
It wasn't like a long series. There was like 5 or 6 videos that had the One Life referenced in the title. And then there were a few others. Like I think the first, it wasn't called One Life, but the first video of like that quality was like Ghost. When I did the first 1vx on Ghost, there was that keep fight. There was a bunch of guys in the keep, and I took them out, and it was it wasn't called that, but after that, King Richard at the time, he's like, this sets like a different standard for like what VX is in PvP and stuff. Because prior to that, people had taken like 1vx fights, but it was like a 1v3 or whatever, and there's like 2-3 minutes, and this was like a real fight. There was a struggle to it. There's like a beginning, a middle, and end, and where the fight started was very different from where it ended. And I don't know. It was like, but anyway, I'm getting off track. What I meant to say is like I don't believe that anyone owns a style of content creation. And Delty had come up to me and said, I want to do the One Life. And I told him the same thing. I was like, man, do whatever you like. Like, I don't own One Life. Like, that's totally fine. And, and I believe like that theory with just everything in life. If someone does something that's great and you like it and you want to emulate it, go for it and do it in your own way. Don't feel like they own it or whatever. I don't know. I don't believe like I own it, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not like if I do the top 5, you can't. Like they'll obviously be like, you'll have to get people to send in the clips, but No,
I was having the same discussion with Joe Rogan the other day. And I was talking to him and I was like, hey man, I want to emulate your series, your podcast. And he was like, yeah. Dude, go for it. He's like, I don't own this. Like, just go for it. Have fun with it. I was like, thanks, Joe. Thanks.
Exactly, man. And that's like, I don't know. I don't think that there's like intellectual ownership to some degree. Like if I drew a picture, that's my picture, right? But like if I drew a picture of a sword, I don't own all pictures of swords. It's kind of that idea, right?
No, I totally get it, and I totally agree.
Early on, I was not a huge content creator. I was more of a community member.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what like stemmed my, like, I wanted to content create too, but the community member helped build that, I think, because I had kind of established a place in the ESO community early on with, larger content creators. Like especially Cypher is a big one to bring up because, I was really close with Cypher back in the day, and Cypher's whole career through Legend and stuff, I had a lot to do with that as well. And,
Great.
I really liked that I was part of that, and I'm really happy that, he got to go where he is today. And I take a lot of pride in, just that early part. I don't know. I don't feel like I did anything for him, really. I just was part of the process. And it didn't mean that a lot of people wanted to contact me for content, because Cypher would go to guys like Lefty, King Richard. These were guys who had channels, around my size now, but way back in that day. And they just knew me as like the guy that owned Legend, I guess, back then.
No, I actually was going to bring that up next. That's perfect that you just kind of transitioned into that. So how did you come up with a dueling guild? Because not a lot of people know that you created Legends, or I don't even think a lot of people know about Legends anymore. It's such an
I haven't kept up to date with the guild in the past couple years, but I haven't heard a lot about them.
Mm-hmm.
But for the longest time, they did dueling tournaments and stuff like that.
So how'd you come up with the idea of Legends? Were you just a group of friends that was kind of like dueling?
No, it was just me.
Okay.
I went at it alone, and that's actually how I met pretty much all my ESO friends. I just loved PvP at the beginning of the game, and very early on, I realized that this game was like really deep and that there was a lot to learn in it. And I wasn't getting what I wanted from World PvP, because I think it's something, especially as like more experienced players will find, when you start PvP, you got to learn to stay alive, right? But like when you play like in solo World PvP and stuff, like you have to be at a certain level just to kind of enjoy yourself. Otherwise, it's very hard to be competitive. And I wasn't getting that experience early on. I felt like there were skills that I needed to learn in the game that just I couldn't get from getting zerged down like that all the time. And what happened was I was fighting some AD players 2 or 3 months after the game came out. And I was just fighting a few of them, and then they stopped and they wanted to do like one-on-ones, and they messaged me in game, and I messaged them back, and I was like, yo, let's do some one-on-ones. So we did, and we dueled a bit, and it was a great thing. One of them was pretty fucking salty about it, but that's like, you'll get that as you get more into dueling. People sometimes get upset when they win or lose, doesn't matter. But he just,
put their name out there right now.
I don't remember.
Now's your chance. Name and shame.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't keep tabs on that. I just forget. But no, they dueled with me for a bit. And then after, I was like, we should start a guild, and we can meet up and duel again. And then I met Akinos, who is also like a very long time community member in ESO. And very early on, I met Akinos through EP, because I was like advertising. I was like, I have a dueling guild I'm trying to start, and I'm looking for more members. And Akinos, if you know about him now, he's a very active PvP player in this game. He's been playing a long, long time. Yeah, so early on in those days, he jumped right on top of that. And I became good friends with him very early on at that stage. And through him, I got to know his kind of guild that he was in final at the time. And I met a bunch of really great guys that I played a lot of PvP with early on in the game. But that all stemmed from the dueling guild. I met him and I was like, I'm doing this dueling guild. Kinos was like, yeah, I'd love to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. So he jumped on board. And the first time Legend fell apart, we got to 60 members, and there was a huge exodus of all the AD players, because it was just AD and EP at the time, because someone in Akinos' guild had beef with someone in the main guild because it was pretty much just two guilds come together, right?
Competition, man. That's
and it just, everything fell apart, and they all left. And I didn't want to give up on it, because I had a really good experience prior to that kind of falling apart. So I decided I'll do it again. And this time Akinos and his guild were on board, right? So I already had people, and then I had met Hova, who I don't know if you know.
Man. Yeah, Hoveling was kind of my first big boss character of ESO. And me and my buddy Zane, we always talk about the big bosses. So Hoveling took control. I think it was Chillrind, the campaign.
Oh, yeah.
He had control of that thing for, like, it was a long time. I don't want to give a certain time frame, because I can't remember.
I always played on Chillrind, because Hova brought the DC Zerg there.
And Benzi, you remember Benzi, he hated that guy. They had like a friendly rivalry, right? But whatever Hova would pop on screen, Benzie was right there, and he would streak past with his little Stamsork thing that he had built. And he would have like 20 of them on him. He's rolling and streaking, and they're all pissed off. And Benzie had this amazing talent to rage tell people while he was fighting them. And so you would hear him in I think we were using TeamSpeak at the time. And you would hear him, and he's like, yeah, I'm talking shit to Hoveling. And he's like streaking, and there's like a Zerg of 20 behind him. And you'd hear his keyboard just start clack, 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 clack. And you knew he was just rage telling all 20 of them at once while he was 1vxing them. Benzie was, he was something else, man.
That's funny. Yeah, I'll get to Benzie boy, because he was part of the whole Legend thing too.
Okay.
And he had joined a little bit later after that. And I knew about that rivalry. I didn't know, because I didn't spend a lot of time playing with Benzie again, right. But like I knew there was a rivalry there. But I also knew who Hova was when I met him and when I had spent time, because the guild again came together through mixing separate faction guilds. That was always the struggle of Legend, is you had to take PvP guilds that regularly fought against each other and make them play together now, you know? And not just that, but have like a structured environment where it's like you need to respect the rules of our one-on-one engagement. And it was very hard to do. But anyway, so I'd gotten a hold of Hova through some DC players. I don't remember who at the time. And that's how all of the DC crowd kind of came into Legend at that time. So all of like the big DC players, King Richard had come through there, Lefty Lucy had come through there. I think they were all part of Hova's guild at the time. And Cypher was not. Cypher came later after that.
Okay.
Really? Cypher actually joined Legend once it had been fairly established already. I think we had 300 members at the time when I invited him.
I always thought he was there at the beginning, so this is great.
No.
This is great. I'm learning.
I remember when Cypher first came into a Legend duel, and he just got flattened by everybody because he didn't know how to duel. And everyone who dueled at Legend, the reason people came here at that time was because there were some great players starting to emerge. There were some players that people would fight one-on-one, and they'd be like, how are you not ever losing to anybody? Like, they wouldn't understand it.
Huh? The cheat engine.
The cheat engines. Yeah. It wasn't. People weren't cheating. It's just the game's complex. No one knew how to play. And dueling taught you how to play. It taught you how to counter every class, every ability. It taught you how to fight effectively and manage your resources really well. And it just essentially teaches you those basics that nobody really knew. And I
always thought that was so funny. The way people always come to that conclusion. If you can't beat somebody, it must be cheat engine. It comes back to that. It's like there's like an old adage where if technology... Something about technology is going to look like magic to those who don't know what it is. Some famous quote. I probably look like an imbecile trying to quote it right now, but
I don't know either. But
it's the same thing. It's the same premise. Is that they look at this person, they can't fathom how they're that good, or that they've spent 8,000 hours in game.
It's just practice, man. Like the guys who beat the other guys in Legend, they just played more, they practiced more, and they won the fights because of that. Like that was it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just resulted in this like environment where people were very interested in how these guys were getting so good. And that was just it. And it wasn't even like anything special. We just created an environment where we had my fucking monitor just turned off.
Oh.
Did you lose me?
Nope. I still got you on my end.
We just had this environment where we created like a very kind of like safe, structured environment to learn. And that was really the intent from Legend from the start. I didn't throw any tournaments or anything at all at the beginning because I hadn't even thought of it. For me, it was just a dueling guild where we came in and we learned. And I personally would come to Legend duels on fucking weird builds every time. I would almost never come on like my world build. Almost never.
Well, it's cool watching the old builds because you see a lot of like Magicka users using Execute before there was ever like stamina archetypes. There was like Magicka DKs using Execute, or I think Magicka Templar used it as well. Yeah, there were
just the game was structured differently too. You got a lot more hybrid-esque stats back then. So Executioner was a much better execute slot than just a regular magic spammable. So it made sense for how the game meta was at the time. But nowadays, you wouldn't be able to do that as effectively unless you ran very specific sets and stuff.